we used to hop it over to the childminder's house at 6 a.m. in the morning because my mum had to clock on at 7. I had to sit outside the other side of the blue felt screen at Lloyd's TSB or whatever it was called back then and listen to my mum taking an overdraft out. And my mum and dad, like, they're proud, don't get me wrong, but I still think they're like, was 3 years of sitting on your ass though, wasn't it? I did want to be a curator, and someone said to me, I'm really sorry, Susanna, but no one's going to take you seriously with your accent. You're not going to change him. You know, he did 40 years in a factory. He's like, you don't know what tired is, girl. Like, tired is this. I went out for a lunch and I didn't realise you didn't eat the shell on an edamame bean because I thought it was like a sugar stacked pig.
Susanna grew up in a factory working family and proudly identifies as working class. After being expelled from school and finishing her education at college, it was a teacher's encouragement that led her to self-fund her way through university. Starting out in historic houses, she quickly became aware of how class and even her accent shaped perception and opportunity, ultimately redirecting her path into marketing within the charity sector. Now, she reflects on social mobility, access, and identity from unpaid work experience to the subtle ways class still influences who gets in and who progresses. She speaks honestly about navigating middle-class professional spaces while staying connected to her roots. Welcome to the podcast, Susanna. How are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, good, thank you.
That's good. Could you tell us a little bit about what your role and what you currently do?
So I'm the head of marketing at a social mobility and education charity focused on young people in the UK, and it's called Working Options.
Okay, and what kind of work do you do in that role?
Well, the charity does a lot. I do a little bit. So ultimately, we want to be the leading charity helping young people to connect with 3 things. So we want them to build skills, grow in confidence, and connect with opportunities. And I think if you can give young people those 3 things and they're ambitious and want to work hard, then you've given them the right tools to hopefully, follow a career that they want to do.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I think, I think this interview will definitely align with the stuff that we'll be discussing. As this series is about those from working class and lower socioeconomic background, what does working class mean to you? How would you define it?
Everyone's going to say different things, and I'm going to go a little bit old school. I'm going to say I think it is how you grew up and how you were classified by other people when you were younger. So it's less about how you classify yourself. I think it's how other people saw you when you were younger, treated you, and that sort of sticks with you as you get older. So my mum and dad are they both worked in factories, and we didn't have a lot of money. And so even though I'm probably progressed to be a middle class now, if anybody asked me, I'd be like, well, obviously I'm working class,
Yeah, so you'd say your working class roots are kind of still stuck with you. And
Yeah.
in my intro, I talked about like your education and how it didn't really work out for you. But could you tell us a little bit about that journey and how you end up going into, because I mentioned that you work in like the historic houses. And
Yeah.
could you tell us a little bit about that path and journey and a little bit about that?
I went to the local school because back in the day, that's what you did. It's funny, I was listening to the radio the other day, had Radio 4 on, something that was never on in my house when I was younger, for definite, but I was listening to Radio 4 and they were having a bit of a squabble, all these people buying their houses to get near schools and things like that. I was thinking, it doesn't matter when my parents were younger because you went to the local school because that's where they had time to drop you off, or they had to get you to a childminder to drop you off before they went to work. So we used to hop it over to the childminder's house at 6 a.m. in the morning because my mum had to clock on at 7. And that was it. You went to local school, and primary school was all right. You've got nice friends, it goes all right. And then when you get to secondary school, I think that's where for a lot of young people it can go very wrong very, very quickly. So I'm not stupid. I was never going to be the brightest person in the world, but I was never going to be, a total failure. But unfortunately, the school just didn't really. They just had a lot to deal with, and I was a little bugger, I think, and so I got booted out.
Well, yeah, sometimes these things happen, and like you said, I think there are a lot of strains and pressures on schools. So
I don't blame them,
some,
by the way.
yeah,
So one of our trustees has got an incredible job. I won't say who he is because he won't be identified as
yeah,
connected with me after I've just said that. But I absolutely don't blame the school for what they did. And in a way, it was a
okay,
good thing, because if I'd have stayed at the school, I think I would have just carried on thinking I could get away with being a plonker
yeah,
and scooted through life like that. And actually, it was a bit of a wake-up call. It was like, oh, God,
mm,
this is my last chance now. And if I don't work hard, not that there's anything wrong with what my mum and dad did, but they told me how unhappy they were and how they'd worked hard to make things better for me, and how, you'd be
yeah.
letting them down.
Well,
So,
was there like a moment then, like when your parents would tell you, like, actually, this is a lot harder for us just because of our working
yeah,
class roots and stuff?
yeah. When we were chatting before, I told you about the school bag, didn't I? My mum, when
Mm,
we first went to secondary school, I had to sit outside the other side of the blue felt screen at Lloyd's TSB or whatever it was called back then, and
yeah, yeah,
listen to my mum taking an overdraft out to buy my
yeah.
school uniform. And I remember trying to pick the cheapest of everything and pretending I really loved it. And we
Mm,
went to Q&D stores, and there's this god awful bag, black old lady shopper bag, not even a backpack, and it was 99p.
yeah.
I remember my mum going, "Do you like that? 'Cause, you fit all your stuff in it." And I knew what the answer should be.
Mm,
Yes, I remember getting that bag. I remember getting teased like anything when I went to school. But you
yeah.
just stay quiet, don't you?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
This bag worked. My mum didn't need any more stress.
yeah.
So,
But that's the thing. I suppose you recognise that quite early on, and you're able to act upon that. And
yeah,
um, so yeah, like I, I think those from working class backgrounds do notice there's a struggle.
yeah.
And
It's
is
like
that something that
food,
you would
isn't it?
recognise? Yeah,
Yeah, it's little things like when you're younger, you understand how many fish fingers are in a box.
yeah,
And you know that when your mum's trying to feed you, her, your dad, and your brother, she didn't really want to crack open a second box, because
mm,
that's breaking into a second meal. So I remember all the time when I was younger, I was never hungry. I've never been underfed. My mum and dad are lovely. But you'd be like,
mm,
I only really want one. I'm all right with one fish finger. And in your head, you'd be
yeah,
thinking, I could definitely eat three. But you're like,
yeah,
oh, I'll have some extra baked beans, like,
yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a sob story, is it? It's just you become aware and you're trying to be
yeah,
helpful. You're still
yeah, yeah,
fed and you're
yeah,
still happy and
yeah,
all of that stuff, but you just try and be a little bit more like, I think they need a break because they're probably working hard enough. So if I can
yeah,
do
yeah.
something to help, just have one less fish finger, one fewer fish finger.
Would you say that's kind of across the board then? Would you say other working class kids were kind of a similar mindset to yourself then?
Yeah, I remember boys trying not to cry. When like you get a new pair of trainers and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
try and
yeah,
play football without scuffing their shoes and stuff
yeah,
like that. You see like fully grown boys trying to get a J cloth out the cleaner's
yeah,
cupboard to like try and give their give their trainers trainers a clean and things like that, because
yeah,
it's
yeah,
precious. I've got to say my little boy's 6 and he's got no idea about looking after things because
mm,
I don't think he values stuff. He's
yeah,
not that you should know the cost of everything, but I think when you're working class, you do understand that there is a cost to
yeah.
things in a
You
different
see the
way.
struggle. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard one rather than just easily come by, isn't it?
It was a teacher that kind of
Yeah.
set you down this path going to university. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
He was called Mr. Warsap, actually. I
Yeah,
remember him. And I used to get sat outside a lot of the classroom, so I wasn't allowed in the room.
yeah,
But for some reason, the history teacher was just, I don't know, I don't really understand why you're naughty for some teachers and not for
mm.
others. And I was never bad, just a bit of a class clown. When you're a bit stupid, you're like, oh, I'm going to try and make people laugh and
Oh,
stuff.
just prattling about and
Disruptive,
stuff. Yeah, yeah,
prattling
yeah.
about, exactly right. But I thought, I don't think this guy's going to take it. And
Mm,
I, he's pretty, knows his stuff, It's pretty interesting what he's talking about. I'll miss out
yeah.
if I get chucked out of this one. So
Oh, okay.
just behaved. And then because he was nice, I don't know if they're like, oh, brilliant, I've managed to, get the one that's naughty for everyone else to be good for me. But he was just very encouraging. And that's pretty
Yeah,
much all
yeah.
it takes, isn't it, really? It's just someone to
Yeah,
go,
just a bit of encouragement. Yeah.
yeah, you're not rotten to the core. Come on. You're just being
Mm.
stupid. You know what? These people are all going to forget you in a few years. Do you want to make them laugh now or do you want to make yourself happy long term? Like, come on, crack on,
Yeah.
kid. What are you going to do? It was just like, all right, bit much. But I think some people do need just one teacher that just takes a little bit longer. I don't know.
And so,
Top bloke.
yeah, so there's a teacher. Yeah, funny enough, I had a history teacher.
The history teacher of you as well.
It's quite. He made an impact. Like, I think, like you said, there's always that one teacher that you always get, and it's like, yeah, they've kind of put an impression.
He was a proper Londoner, my teacher as well. I don't know what yours was like, but he wasn't like, oh, hello, I'm Mr. Warsap. Done a degree in classics. He was like, right, sit
Proper
down.
geezer.
Yeah, yes. Sit down or I'm going to turf you out on your rear. And you were like,
Mm.
yeah, well, he means that, so.
Yeah. No, like, this history teacher that I had, Mr. Chan, his name was. And he was like from Coventry and stuff. But yeah, he kind of just treated you with a bit of respect and like spoke to you as a person and just very encouraging. And he was like that with a lot of the kids at the school. And yeah, I think once you get that one teacher, it's just like that, it gives the encouragement. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah. And yeah, I think there's always a strain at schools and stuff like that. But yeah, you do get those teachers. And I'm sure many other people, like previous guests, they would have had someone that was quite influential and made that impression.
Yeah.
And so this teacher of yours, was it because of him you then decided to go to university?
Do you know, I'm going to be totally honest. I think I'm one of the new Blairite generation where, you were just told
Education.
Yeah. You go to university or come on, kids, you failed. And it was, when it was cheap comparatively, like £1,200 or £1,500 a year. I can't remember how much my fees were compared to the young people now who are getting insane debt heaped upon them for the same, probably slightly devalued product now. So I feel genuinely sorry for them. I still think university is an amazing vehicle for certain careers. It definitely is. But it was easier to go to university, I think, 20 years ago, because it wasn't the financial tie for life.
Yeah. So you found it was a lot more accessible because it was so much cheaper. Because in my intro, I mentioned that you self-funded it.
Yeah.
Was that a conscious decision and you didn't want to put the strain on your parents?
I felt really bad for my mum and dad because my mum used to rely on, I think it used to get called family allowance rather than tax credits. And as soon as you finish school, that stops.
Yeah.
And my mum used to use that for one of the shops.
Yeah.
And so I was like, not only is she worse off if I go to university, literally just by the fact that I've finished school, I can't then be like, can I have 30 quid because I want to go out drinking with my friends, even though you and dad haven't got a holiday or anything, my mum's always had my dad, I would say my dad is pretty, I don't know, in that bloke way, I feel like he's always sort of pretty much got what he needed in life. He's not selfish.
Yeah.
But I feel like if he's wanted
quite content.
if he's wanted it, he's pretty much got it. Whereas I think my mum is very different. I feel like she's missed out on so much stuff to make sure my brother and I had it. I'll never forget she got me a Sony Walkman for Christmas one year. The ones she used to have to walk along so the CD didn't.
Yeah.
She worked all day in a factory and then went out and cleaned the toilets on a building site in the evenings. And it was the ones the builders are Jews. Like, we all know what builders are like. My mum had literally cleaned up other people's shit to buy me this Walkman and stuff like that. And then you get a bit older, so I was like, no way, my mum is not. I've got to get my act together because I'm going to treat her. And I did with my first ever proper pay packet out of uni. I took her on a plane, first time she'd been on a plane. I took her to Paris and I bought a new outfit from Tesco's, to be fair.
Yeah.
It was from Tesco's, and I got her a skirt and a white blazer and a silk scarf, and I took her to Paris and she felt good.
Yeah, no, that's good.
She felt good. It was worth it,
No, I think that's the thing. Like, you've recognised it throughout your life how hard it is for your parents, and just to be able to be in a situation and position where you're able to kind of give back and not put that strain. Like, when I went to uni, I think it was £3,000 per year, and I kind of funded my way through, but I took out a lot of the loans and the maintenance grants and stuff like that. But yeah, at no point did I ever ask my mum to fund it because, like yourself, growing up, you see the struggle and it's like, actually, I'm in a position where I can actually work part-time and
Yeah.
fund this. And like, obviously, I'll have the student debt, but that'll be on me. That's nothing to do with my mum. She's put me through life and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, I completely understand. Before we had this conversation, we actually talked about, because you have a son and he goes to an independent school.
He does.
And
Makes me really unpopular with the general population, thanks to...
well, I was going to say, like, could you tell us a little bit about that and how does that feel compared to like your school days and stuff?
I've got to say, when I first started out working in country houses, they used to call me the little communist, which was hilarious because I'm not a communist. I
Yeah,
fundamentally don't think communism can work because it like negates the human nature of some people stall and some people splurge. And so, yeah,
yeah,
I don't think that works, but I do think there's a fairer way to do things.
mm,
And because of that, they thought I was a communist. And so I've got to be honest, it was a little bit of a like moment, like, well, I've literally got to park my principles. Because
mm,
if my son didn't exist and you asked me, I'd say, absolutely, it's not fair. Some children
yeah,
get, some people don't. The funny thing is, when someone holds a gun to your head and it's yours, and you know that the
mm,
provision locally isn't set up for the way your son is. Like, if my son was around in the Viking times, he'd be like hot property. They'd be like, wow, this guy's going to be like the chief of a tribe. And these days, they're like, you've got to dial down the testosterone. You're too aggressive. You're too noisy. You're too much. Everything about
yeah,
you is too much. We've got to drum you out of you. And I just
yeah,
couldn't bear, even though sometimes, honestly, I want to scream because he can be so much. He's who he is, and I just don't want anyone
yeah,
to change. I don't want that knocking out of him. So we had a look at
yeah,
the schools around here, and I said to you, there was one of them that came out as good, and my son had a really severe dairy allergy, and there's a law going through the House of Lords because unfortunately that local school was noted as outstanding, but for the third time they gave a child dairy, and it
mm,
was fatal on the third time that poor kid had dairy. And that was when we were making the choice of school, and we were like, you feel yourself feeling sick now. We were just like,
yeah,
I'll go without anything. I just want him to be all right. And I've got to say, he goes to an independent school, not what you just think of as a private school. It's like, it's on a farm and it's got less facilities than a lot of the schools locally, but
yeah,
the classes are a little bit smaller and they let them go outside quite a lot, which works for my little nut job.
yeah,
But I do get it. I do get why. If you don't have the money and your child's exactly the same as mine, I see why you think that is hideously
mm,
unfair. Because it
yeah.
is.
And
I know it is.
because your background, as you've said, you're from like working class roots. What what's the perception now that you're sending your child to an independent school? Is
My mum's one of 7, and I've got to say, I know some of them think she's up her own arse, doesn't she?
yeah,
Which is funny, because if you came to our house, you definitely wouldn't think we were up our own arse. You'd be like, oh,
yeah, yeah,
just run-of-the-mill,
yeah,
average people. We don't have a new car or anything. Like, our new car was like
mm,
6 years old when we bought it. We're not flash Harrys or anything like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
One car household, all of that jazz. But some of my mum's family are definitely like, oh, Miss fucking hoity-toity,
yeah.
with a, oh, and he wears a blazer to school, so he looks like something from an Enid Blyton novel, and then they'll take the piss. Like, it's perfectly
Yeah,
okay to do reverse snobbery.
yeah,
And because my son's got something that maybe their children, my cousin's children, maybe don't have, they're allowed to sneer at me
mm,
because of it, which is funny because some of them earn more money and have just made different lifestyle choices. So,
yeah,
we don't have as big a house and we don't have new cars, and we don't go on holidays. My son's had one holiday, which was 4
yeah,
nights in Dorset. Yeah, we've decided to make certain changes, and I
mm,
appreciate that we're very lucky to be able to make those changes. So I'm not griping or anything like that. But I do find the double standard snobbery of it sometimes a little bit just like, oh, like, why don't we have a chat about it rather than you just
yeah,
taking the piss out of my kid who is
yeah,
just a child, Come on, people.
yeah. But I suppose it kind of mirrors like you growing up. Your mum was doing the best for you, but she was doing it based on how much she was earning
Sh-
at that time.
She thinks her life's made. and I'm not even taking the absolute piss. My mum, if you had my mum here now, she'd start crying about her son who goes to a good school and how she knows that it wouldn't have happened if she hadn't have, helped me out and stuff like that. And I just, you know what? If that makes her proud, I don't mind if some people want to sneer or sort of like take her down or anything, but she's, in a way, she's like, job done. I've worked really hard and I've made the next generation, they're better off than I am. They're happier than I'm going to be.
Yeah.
And that makes...
And I suppose that's what you're doing now for your son. You're kind of mirroring that.
Yeah.
But you're in a position that your mum wasn't in.
Yeah.
In comparison. So
I think she would have been. She grew up in the 60s, and if she'd had more of a chance, I think. But my mum was like one of 7, no dad. My nan never had a job ever. Don't really understand how it worked out. My mum's half sister, older sister, was twins, but I think she got pregnant and they arranged for the baby to go away, and then it turned out to be twins. So one got sent away and one got kept. So my mum's sister is like 10 years older or so, and as far as I understand, as soon as she finished school, they were like, get a job. And so my auntie never actually got married, because then my nan got ill and she ended up looking after her as well. So yeah.
Well, I suppose, because that was always the thing, wasn't it? I would say in that kind of generation, it would be about, okay, now you've finished school, you got to bring the money in.
Yeah,
you got to bring the money, put the bread on the table.
Which is what I did when I finished uni, and I came home. My mum and dad were like, I'm really sorry, but you pay board.
Yeah.
And that's completely fair enough to expect to have to cover your own food.
Yeah.
When you're like 21, you've been living away from home for 3 years, and you can go out and get a job now. They're like, so
now's your time.
Like, come on, because I think they still think university. My mum and dad, like, they're proud. Don't get me wrong, but I still think they're like, was 3 years of sitting on your ass, though, wasn't it? Even if you did have a part-time job, you're just doing a bit of that book reading and sitting around on your ass chatting to other people. Like, come on, do some proper work now. And I love my mum and dad, but even now, if I say I'm tired, my dad will be like,
"Oh, that ain't work.
You're not tired though, are you?" And I'm like, fucking hell, right, I've not stood up for 10 hours on a night shift. It's a different type of tired, Dad, but I am tired sometimes, Popsy. But you're not going to change him. He did 40 years in a factory. He's like, you don't know what tired is, girl. Like, tired is this. I'm like,
no, I completely get it. It's like, it's a generational thing, isn't it? It's like the perception of work will be very different to ours, and just because the types of work that would have done. Coming back to your son at his school. What are the kind of the other demographics in terms of the parents? Are they from like working class? Or
it's really mixed. I won't lie. Like, I won't name people in case they ever heard it, but I would say there are, how many kids are there? About 40, 45 kids in his year group. So I appreciate that smaller sizes, like 20 odd kids a class. And I reckon a good half of them are from solid working class families. And a lot of them, like us, for whatever reason, will only ever have one child. And so they've kind of like focused resourcing on a way that if they had two, like people like us wouldn't send our son there if we had to send, a sister or brother. Just there's not anything else to trim off to do that. So a lot of them are just people that are a bit older. We're all a bit older, parents all in their 40s and things like that who've had children and fought really hard for them. And I don't think that you love them more because you've fought harder for them or anything like that. But when a miracle comes along, you are a little bit more I don't know, you do go a bit more gaga about it, you're like, oh God, I must make this work.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it?
I have to protect.
Yeah, I suppose you're always going to want to do the best for your child.
But all mums are going to feel like that. Of course they are. All mums are going to feel like that. Absolutely. You're totally right about that. But I would say half of them are like that. They're just like, my kid has to have a better life than me. So
okay. No, it's a fair point.
And then some of them aren't. Like, you and I had
Yeah.
a chat before, and then some of them are not like that. They're people that are incredibly affluent but have decided they
Yeah.
don't want to send them to the types of school that you assume affluent people send their kids to,
Mm.
because they don't want their kids to grow up in what the perception is. But I don't think you would know my son's school was an independent school, other than the fact that they wear a blazer, which, don't get me wrong, a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old in a woolen blazer does look a little bit Enid Blyton. But
Yeah.
so what? I mean, it's just attire. We don't take the mickey out of people on the streets for what they wear, and that just happens to be their school uniform.
Yeah.
And sometimes, some of the people, I'll hear an accent and I have a bit of reverse snobbery. I think, oh, I won't talk to them. I think when I worked in country houses, I started to realise that people who have everything are quite aware that they have everything,
Yeah.
and they're almost embarrassed by the fact that they have everything. But people who have a huge amount but really want to have everything, they're quite keen to show you that they are
Yeah.
a lot better than you. That's what I realised about class, in a way I was sort of like heartened by the fact that those people who have extreme privilege are quite aware of it. But I'd say school's not mostly like that. There's like 2 or 3 people and you're like,
Yeah.
God, the posh people.
Yeah.
But all the
No,
mums
no.
have jobs. Like
Yeah.
my son has to stay in school till 6 o'clock, because with loads
'Cause
of
you're
other codes.
working and
Yeah, because
stuff.
we drop
Yeah.
them off at like 7:30 in the morning. And the good thing about the school is the fact that we can like chuck them out and they get some breakfast, get a hot
Yeah.
lunch, get a hot dinner, and then you pick them up at
Oh,
at
that's
6
pretty good
p.m.
then.
So yeah, I'd say
Yeah.
a lot of them are. So you've got a lot of migrant families as well, maybe, who are doctors. Who the shift
Oh, okay.
patterns means that they can't do
Yeah.
pickups and drop-offs, and they need like a buffer and stuff like that. So there's quite a lot of NHS workers and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Well, you've worked at historic houses, and yeah, could you tell us a little bit about that, and with your working class roots, how was that to work in that environment? And for our viewers, if they don't know what uh, historic houses are, could you tell us a little bit about that?
It was mental. So it's literally one of the places I work is where Pride and Prejudice and the Da Vinci Code and
Mm.
Bollywood films and The Crown and Frankenstein and all of these amazing films are all filmed at one of the houses that I worked at. And it is actually a little bit mental. Like when I first started there, someone said, "Oh, the butler." And I thought they were taking the piss, because I thought butlers were something from like Gosford Park.
Yeah.
I went into heritage because I wanted to be I was saying to you, I wanted to be a curator. I like the past and history and the stories of people, and so I quite like country houses because they've got good archives and stories and objects, and they tell a story about the past in a tangible, really visible way. But I was like surprised when I found out there were actual butlers that still exist. Like, they get paid an
Oh,
insane amount of money. It's a real vocation being a
yeah.
modern day butler, I've got to say. But mostly, it turns out the butlers weren't really like buttling or whatever it gets called. They're like experts maybe in looking after silver and stuff like that. And so they
Oh,
happen to
okay.
work on the bit of the house that the family live in, rather than the bit that's probably a charity and set up for you to have a look around. And mostly they were like, conservation specialists, and they'd keep their secret for, whatever recipe they mixed up for making stuff.
All right.
Yeah, so they were like technicians. They were good at stuff like that.
Yeah.
Less kind of like, would you like a tea, ma'am? And a bit more like,
Yeah.
cleaning the teapot that's been there for 400
Yeah.
years and making it look gorgeous.
Yeah, so they were very specific in their role, like maintenance of the house in specific
Yeah,
areas.
yeah.
Yeah.
But they still
Oh,
called them
okay.
butlers, because I think it's just tradition.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a very traditional. Would you class it as
It was
um,
old-fashioned.
aristocratic?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
some of the families, I didn't understand this either, but you have to go back, like, you have to be able to trace your family thing like 500 odd years or something to be aristocratic,
Oh, right.
apparently. And so I don't think there are many aristocrats actually
Yeah.
actually left. But no, less aristocratic, because these days you don't just get a house. Most of them are put in trusts and stuff like that. So one of the ones I worked at, you had to apply, like it was a job, to be able
Yeah.
to look after your family home. So anybody in the extended family could apply. And then you basically earn pretty much no money, but you obviously get to live in the gaff. And most of us would probably work
Yeah.
for hardly any money if we could work in, like... I mean, they are cold, and everybody knows what you're doing because you can't go out your front door with, out like a few hundred people walking around your garden. But first world problems, I think pretty idyllic life for them.
So, yeah, because you were working there and because you're working class roots, was that ever something that kind of got mentioned, or were people made aware of that, or how was that kind of thing?
I worked at quite a few different places, so as not to identify any set place, but I did want to be a curator, and someone said to me, "I'm really sorry, Susanna, but no one's going to take you seriously with your accent." And they weren't trying to be cruel. The person who said this to me, I cannot say this enough. The person who said that did not say that to be nasty or mean or hurtful. What they were trying to do was protect me from hearing it from someone that might not have said it in quite such a nice way. Or
okay.
so what they said was accurate at the time, and I think it is different now. I think if you went into that type of area now, it wouldn't really matter too much what your accent is, but back then it did matter a little bit more.
Yeah. So because of that, did that make you want to kind of leave that kind of industry? Tell us a little bit about that.
A little bit stuck. They said, why do you want to do it? And I was like, I really like telling stories. And they were like, oh, do you? Right. Well, have you thought of marketing? Because they're storytellers. And I was like, oh, I've not really thought about marketing, to be honest. Go on then. You're like, go on. What is it? And I actually really liked it, because when I first started, Facebook had only just become a thing.
Oh, okay.
And suddenly people were like, you can do email marketing as well these days, where you send messages directly to people. You don't even have to, send letters in the post anymore. And I was like, oh, go on then. I'll give it a go. And I really love marketing. It's not completely insidious and people trying to sell you things you don't want all the time. Some of it is just, painting as nice a picture on a story as they possibly can. Well, I think marketing's all right. So they helped me out. But at the time, I did properly cry. Like, I was gutted, because I'd gone and done a postgrad. While I was working somewhere, I saved up the money to do a postgrad as well. So I'd got a postgrad behind me in heritage management at that point. So I was properly
so you've
gutted.
really aligned yourself in that kind of career.
Yeah, I'd worked at Thomas Cook Customer Services, customer complaints. In the call centre, saved up my, whatever it was, £4,200, so that I could pay for my postgrad.
All right.
And I worked while doing it.
No, I was gonna say that must have been proper gutting, like when someone tells you that, and it's like, actually, you do all these like degrees, education, qualifications, because you've got a route that you want to go down, and then to hear that, it kind of, it feels like you have to take a step back to then figure things out again. But luckily, though, they told you, oh, marketing, give that a go.
Yeah. And that.
But you're quite grateful now that you kind of gone the marketing route?
I don't know. I should probably have a more peaceful life if I was trying to attribute a painting to some Renaissance artist rather than worry about, getting people to want to support a charity. Which is the hard yards, getting people to part of cash for something that they don't get immediate return on, especially at times like this, when no matter how much money you've got, you probably notice you got less and less and less every month with bills and inflation and all that sort of stuff. So maybe at the time I was gutted. Now, I mean, I'm a bit of that thing where it's like, I think I would probably be quite happy with whatever I'm doing, because I quite like doing a job well, and as long as I feel like I can work quite hard and stuff like that, I'm pretty happy. Probably a bit similar to you. You just like, as long as I can have a sense of self-respect that I'm doing a good job, and people don't think I'm lazy and they don't think I'm, taking money for not working hard enough, then yes, it's all right. But no, I was pretty pissed off at the time, and I think I hammed my accent up for a little bit as well, because like Cockney Farmers where I was, so I'd start dropping my T's and stuff like that, just in the office. I'd be like, oh yeah, Pete Bother and things.
Well,
I was thinking, what are you doing? But I was sort of, when you get almost like a bit angry about something, you're like, oh, jog on, come on. But
I suppose, now that you are like in marketing, and is because I feel like Is there a certain class that would work in marketing? Is there kind of a perception of people that would be in that kind of industry?
Yeah, when we spoke about this before, I stand by what I said before. I think PR and communications was, and to me still feels, slightly dominated by more middle and upper class people, generally
Mm.
because I think you need experience to get some of these roles and good networks, and sometimes to be able to work to contract work. So that's all right if you've got someone who can pay the bills and that. Whereas if you have to sort of like self-fund yourself from the minute you leave somewhere, you can't
Yeah.
be quite so selective about what you do. So we ended up chatting because Working Class, the agency, is it Working Class? What was the event that they did? Oh, it's so terrible. I'm so middle-aged. I've forgotten. But Laura Birch, anyway, like a PR
Yeah.
agency, proud to say we're powered by people from a working class background. And I think
Yeah.
there are more and more things like that coming through. And obviously, I have not experienced the whole world, but from what I've experienced, I do feel like people in marketing tend to be a bit more gritty, and people in
Mm.
PR and comms tend to be a little bit more fluffy. And I really,
Yeah.
I hope not too many people see that, but I do. I think that is fairly true. You do get a lot of like poshos in
Yeah.
PR, and sometimes they talk the bullshit. They talk in
Yeah.
bullshit
They know how
language to
to.
each other
Yeah.
to deliberately keep you out. And
Yeah.
and then there'll be little chats about skiing, or they'll like go to certain place for restaurant, or they'll
Yeah.
pronounce I told you about when I thought bloody munch tea was pronounced mangatout because nobody told me, and I
Yeah.
went out for lunch and I didn't realise you didn't eat the shell on an edamame bean because I thought it was like a sugar stamped pig.
Yeah.
They just laugh at you, like it's funny, and it's not
Yeah.
particularly funny because you do try and laugh stuff off, but inwardly you feel a little bit humiliated and stupid, don't
Mm.
you? But I think PR people sometimes do that a little bit deliberately. So in all of the roles that I've ever had, I've always used external PR rather than doing it myself because I've always chickened out over it. I've always felt excluded from
Okay.
that. I'm like, you know what? I'll manage an external agency and they can
Oh, so
talk that
it's.
language. I don't fit in that.
Oh, so yeah, because I'm reading a book at the minute. It's called Social Classes in the 21st Century, and that talks about your capital. So I suppose that social capital,
Yeah.
your that's the PR, that's the marketing. Two complete different
Yeah.
like social groups, as it were.
Yeah, sometimes even just writing
Yeah.
these press releases when I was working in my old life, like having read all of the books or understanding some of the terms, or
Mm.
having been to shows, been to different sorts of exhibitions, all of that stuff that I just haven't been exposed to or wasn't used to.
Yeah.
And I feel like PR people are brought up slightly differently. Like, generally speaking, they know how to ski. I feel like people who work in marketing are like, I don't know, they don't know how to ski. Generally, maybe
Yeah.
some people these days, maybe now you can work at Google and all of these places,
Yeah.
maybe people in marketing decide to learn to ski when they grow up and spend their
Mm.
money. But I feel like most people who've done the hard yards and come through marketing did not spend their Easter holidays or February or whenever it is that people go skiing. I feel like they didn't
Yeah.
spend it on the slopes in the middle of Europe.
The company you work for, what is it? Working
Yeah,
options.
yeah, yeah, charity, yeah.
Working options. So yeah, you've mentioned that they're quite good in terms of like, for instance, they've got that hybrid approach where you
Yeah.
work, and for those like from working class backgrounds, sometimes location is a difficult part of it. Um, is that something you've noticed, especially in the charity that you're working with?
I think Working Options, what it's got bang on is that it doesn't expect you to live near London. So it's a real living
Mm.
wage employer, but you can earn your money wherever you live. So
Yeah.
if you want to, if you live in Hull and you can work really hard, then you can have a Teams call. We don't all have to be we don't all have to spend ages schlepping it into an office somewhere,
Yeah.
paying a
Yeah.
fortune for that. And also it gives people a bit of flexibility to pick the kids up, or if they've got caring, some of the people might have caring responsibilities, and
Mm.
some people just might want a pet for a bit of companionship and things like that. All
Yeah.
the stuff that some of these jobs that you have to get in London, I think take a little
Mm.
bit of your life away from you. You like to
Yeah.
have to exchange a bit of life just in order to get down there. And there's a sort of kudos attached to that. And I quite like the fact that this charity's gone, there's no kind of like glamour or cachet in the fact that you happen to be near London. Like, you can be competent
Mm.
and got a colleague in Wrexham, colleagues in Swansea, in Cardiff, in Teesside,
Yeah.
similarly Scarborough.
Yeah.
And we have got someone who lives in London, someone who lives in Bedfordshire. I'm just in South Lincolnshire. We are all over the shop.
Yeah.
And that's fab because, you know, some of these people can afford to buy actual houses where they live rather than
Yeah.
renting in London for their entire lives. So I think it's a really good way of doing it. But I can understand sometimes for people early in their careers, they quite like being like in a space with people and stuff like that. So it
Yeah.
is a bit of a trade-off. I fully appreciate that.
Yeah, because you also mentioned like even for interviews, your company pays for the interviews and stuff like
cover
that.
the train.
So that's quite
Why wouldn't you cover the train? Why would you expect somebody to be out of pocket for coming to interview with you? They're doing you a favour. They might bring their talent to your organisation and help you grow. And I don't see why somebody should be out of pocket to come to an interview. No, our chief executive's really good like that.
No, it feels like more companies should be kind of taking that on board. But I suppose then it comes at a cost because if they're paying every person to come for an interview,
you don't interview
the travel. But
maybe if you're a massive company, that'd start costing a lot of money. But maybe it'd be a good indicator of what type of employer you are, that you offered to do it, and maybe you'd get a different sort of candidate, or people would feel warmer towards you as a company. You'd set a culture and a tone for a not significant amount of money. Like, let's be honest about it. We say we cover train travel, but we do say to people, like, please don't
go first class.
Don't go first. Exactly. Try not to go first class. And we try and set the interviews at sensible times of the day so that you're not going to be on the peak train, even if you've got to travel in from quite a long way. If you're travelling in from, say, Nantwich, where one of my colleagues is, you know, we're not going to set it for 10 o'clock in the morning knowing you're going to have to get in a rush hour one. Let's set it for like 1 in the afternoon, then you can come in, get out, get on a normal train home, you know. So you can make adjustments. I think people make excuses quite a lot, but you can make adjustments if you just pause for a few seconds, have a bit of a think.
And because I think it was in the intro actually where I talked about work experience and how I feel like some companies don't actually pay for the work experience, they just pay your expenses. And previously we had this conversation and I thought it was kind of law now where they have to pay you, but you brought it to my attention now is just the expenses.
That like consultancy paper, it came out last week, so they've like been looking into this and they're not gonna make unpaid internships illegal.
Oh, so it's
going to, for the foreseeable future, that can continue. And I do understand, but I think there's a difference between work experience, which is basically shadowing, not doing anything, and probably not contributing to the company. And young kids, when they're at school, need to go in for work experience, and they shouldn't get paid for that. But if you want to do an internship, and you want somebody to come in as a junior, do some research or something like that, and you're going to unlock somebody else on your payroll to go and do another job, then you should. You should pay for the intern, shouldn't you? You shouldn't exploit them.
Well, if they're contributing to the actual
It's 2 tiers as well, otherwise. Who can do internships? And this is my kind of like, my, rallying cry about private schools and independent schools is I definitely agree. My son won't be going to a secondary school. He goes to a primary school because we would never be able to afford a secondary school. But if we could have sent him to a secondary school, I don't necessarily think that they come out and go into better jobs just because they have a network. Because I might be very naive about this, but networks don't create jobs generally in a lot of industries. But what these schools have are parents that can afford to send them there. And so when they finish, they can afford to float them. They can afford to pay deposits on flats, cover rent, short-term contracts. They can gamble a little bit more, especially for my industry. If your mum and dad can afford to pay for your flat in London, cover your living expenses, then you probably can dabble around and try being a bit of a curator and having a go in TV. It's not necessarily the school that got you there, it's the financial backing of your
So it's their kind of economical capital that they've got.
And that's the game changer.
That allows them to kind of
and so they'll be the ones that get all the internships, won't they? Because their mum and dad can afford to like put them up somewhere for 3 weeks and they can go and work at an agency for free because they don't need to earn money over the summer holidays. So that's why I'm not massively keen on unpaid internships, because as much as I appreciate the students get quite a lot out of doing an internship, don't get me wrong, if done properly, you can learn a lot in a short period of time. But I feel like it makes the playing field more unlevel.
Yeah, no,
Bit
no, I
unfair.
completely get it. Yeah, no, because like I know some places, yeah, they just cover your expenses, but it's like
It's
you
the
could be
loss,
put,
isn't it? Like, you've not gone and
yeah,
earned 110 quid working somewhere else that
yeah,
day. It's not just your 10 quid for your train.
and you could be putting the hard graft in as well. You're actually contributing to that company. You put in all the hours, actually working,
Yeah.
and then all you got to show for it is like, oh yeah, I just went in for the day. Obviously, some people will probably say, yeah, but that's part of the work experience internship. You can put that on your CV, but like you said, unless you've got your parents who can kind of put you up in a flat, or you might then have to commute in so far, whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is a tricky situation in your line of work, working options. As a company, are they aware of class and how it works in society?
Yeah, I think we try not to talk about things in terms of class because it's about need at our
Yeah,
organisation. So it's less about what your parents do and more about maybe what the school needs to help provide you with. So
yeah,
we would always try and work with schools who have maybe a lot of young people who are on high pupil premium, free school meals, things like
mm,
that, which are just indicators that they might need a
yeah.
little bit more help to unlock that, not social capital necessarily, but one of the really good things that Working Options does is like events. So one of
Yeah.
the schools that it's one of the schools I went to for 4 sessions before I got booted out, down the road from me, Ken Stimpson School, Peterborough, shout out. Um, they are, like, as an area, it's not a wealthy area.
Yeah.
It's not somewhere that you would go and go, I really want to get myself a house around here. This is a fantastic area. This Tesco's is very safe for me parking your car. You are like a little bit aware when you go and visit there that you have to be a little bit more sensible and not walking around with your mobile
It's quite a
phone.
deprived
Not
area, would
necess-
you say?
not deprived's not the right word. I just think
Lower socioeconomic
it's
kind of
it's
area?
it's it's just that people are living a slightly harder life than others,
Yeah.
and you maybe sometimes, maybe it's me, make an assumption that, oh, maybe I might get my phone snatched around here
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
things like that. So you are just like a little bit more aware of it. And we've been working with that school, and it's been absolutely fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
they've come into Barclays, they've been into Salesforce, they've come into all of these events. Some of the kids said, "Oh, we've never been on the train into London before." Peterborough is like
Okay.
70 miles away
Yeah,
from
yeah.
from London. Peterborough is in a cultural desert, to be totally honest. You have to leave it to go and find anything
Mm,
good to do. And so I think the fact that those young people are now confident about getting on a train, going into the world headquarters or UK headquarters of leading global companies, that's opportunities they wouldn't get. And I think it's good that we prioritise working with young people who are aided by the work. It's not just like a
yeah.
bauble to hang on a tree. It's actually like the root and branches of the thing. And so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
really proud that as an organisation, we try and make a difference rather than just, work for the sake of work, mate. We don't work with
Yeah, yeah.
independent schools. We try not to work with elite schools. And there are plenty of elite state schools where, postcodes by entry to elite
Mm,
schools. So
yeah.
just calling them a state school, that's an absolute load of rubbish. You pay millions of pounds for your house, you've bought your way into a school, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not that those children don't need some support, it's just that some children need more support. So we're going to prioritise working with those. But it's not a class
Mm.
thing necessarily. I think we try not to use that older.
Yeah, no, no, it's like, um, yeah, that's one thing that I've noticed, like, since doing this series, like, class is such a nuanced, layered thing. You can't really define it as such.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, this book that I'm reading at the minute, it talks more about capital, so your social, economic, and cultural capital. So it looks at it in that way. And I think sometimes instead of just labeling something as working class, obviously we've talked about it and based on our experiences and our background. But if you look at it more as your capital, then I suppose it becomes a much more easier thing to recognize. Okay, if you've got this social capital, like you were talking about, where you've got your PR group and then you've got marketing, there's two groups here. It's like, okay, that's that group of people because of that kind of line of work or whatever. So I think sometimes if you look at it more as the capital, because we talked about this prior to this conversation, where you talked about the cultural capital of those living in London.
Yeah.
And could you tell us a bit about that and what you recognised from that?
Well, like London or big cities. So we drove our little boy over to Cambridge at the weekend. And if you live in a kind of like a metropolitan area, you get free stuff to go to. So if you happen to live somewhere, even if you happen to live in, you know, the less salubrious part of a city, maybe the bit that people wouldn't pick to live in, but you're 15 minutes walk away from a free zoological museum, a archaeological museum, a history museum. You can go to book talks and concerts where sometimes there are free tickets or there are just public screenings. So I do find that a lot of my friends who are working class in London, I would say, have got way more cultural capital than some of my rural middle class friends who would be like, make their annual pilgrimage to London to do like one cultural thing. They'd be like, I'm going to a musical.
I'll go to the theatre.
I'm going to a musical, and I've picked my one restaurant, and I'm going to an exhibition. And then there'll be the people in London who are just like able to just rattle off the names of
just get on the tube
artists.
and have a look at,
Oh yeah, I saw a recital of this, or I saw the so-and-so exhibition here, or I've got a really good understanding of medical history because I managed to go to the Thackeray Museum for free. Like all of this stuff. And I don't think you shouldn't get those things living in London. I just wish it was a little bit more equal everywhere. I definitely don't think it should be like, they've got it, it's not fair, take it away. The rest of us don't. But maybe, you know, train tickets should be a little bit more affordable.
It would make it easier for people to access those things.
So independent businesses can be sensible and say things like, if you're on benefits, if you have disability payments and things like that, we can bring the entry down for admission. Or and maybe I'm really ignorant here, but you don't get cheaper train tickets, do you?
I know you can get like rail cards.
Can you get a rail card? Oh, there you go.
But that's kind of, it's based on like various aspects. Like, for instance, there's a 16 to 25 rail card for young persons.
Can you get one if you're on, say, income support? You should be entitled to go and experience these things as well.
I'd imagine there probably is something.
Okay, all right.
But
I
wouldn't know, to be honest.
No.
I think there is something in place, possibly if you're looking for work. There probably is something in place for that.
Yeah.
But in terms of just to go to the theatre or see some museum art or whatever, I'm not sure if there would be something for that.
When I worked at a museum in London, and we just were like, if you're a young person who's in care or been in care, you can come in for free. And if you're on income support, come in for free. And if you're a student, come in for free. And like a bit like tax, and people who can afford it, like, just pay a little bit more, and then we make sure everybody gets access to this because it's nice, and everyone should be able to dip in and dip out. But like if you work in London, and there are some really good stats in it. The Sutton Trust have got this really cool, it's like a calendar, and it's like a heat map of the country, and it's called the Opportunity Index, and they do it by constituency, and their stuff is amazing. But it's fantastic. You can literally see, like, you can be living in some of the more deprived areas of London, lower socioeconomic income areas of London, and your chance of getting really good jobs can be actually quite high. Whereas, say you're living in Northumberland or somewhere like that, your chances probably of getting a breakthrough job in a big company or something like that are obviously
very slim.
Slim to none. We did a bid recently. We wrote a grant application for Northumberland. I was like absolutely horrified at the life chances. You know, like if young people live in coastal areas or rural areas, it's just like, what's it called? This country. You know, it was really good, that programme that
I know of the show you're on about.
But like, don't get me wrong, bits of it are uncomfortable to watch, but it's uncomfortable to watch because it's quite close to the nub of it with some of that.
Yeah, it's reflecting real life. Yeah. But no, like, I completely get where you're coming from, and I think as we were discussing, you kind of mentioned like you're now middle class. Well, you see yourself more as like middle class because of where you've kind of you become more socially
Yeah,
mobile.
you do. That's right. That's true.
And I remember when we were talking prior to this, how you, if you could tell us the story about at your wedding and your dad signing on the
Yeah.
certificate, and could you tell us a little bit about that?
We got married on the old. We did our wedding for $2,000, which is like, you know, my husband and I are like super
Yeah,
proud. We're more proud of that than the fact that we actually got married. We're like, we did it so cheap.
yeah,
But
yeah,
my dad, bless his heart, when it came to signing the wedding thing, so my husband, his dad, moved to the country, worked for the NHS as a GP, and so you
yeah,
know, like, let's be honest about it. We're like, doctors, they're clever, like
yeah,
important
yeah,
members
yeah,
of society. They're important. And I could tell my
yeah,
dad was uncomfortable, one, because I don't think my dad had, other than going to an Arsenal match where he got either arrested or cautioned for throwing 5 pence pieces at a referee and calling him Judas, I don't think my dad had
yeah,
ever been into London before, because my dad's not from that sort of family. They're quite rural.
yeah,
And so I could tell he was uncomfortable. He was wearing a shirt with a collar, so I knew he was going to be really, really uncomfortable. He's had to put shoes on
mm,
rather than trainers. So I was like, oh God, it's like
yeah.
everything my dad hates has
It's like complete different.
come
Yeah,
together. And bless his heart, he said, I'm not saying it. I don't want to do a speech or anything, which was one of the reasons we went for quite a wedding as well, because he's like a little
yeah,
bit shy and stuff. And it was come to signing the register, and he paused, and I knew he paused. And the reason he paused is because the other dad had written GP, and this registrar on the Old King's Road at Chelsea Town Hall turns to my dad. I don't think he sees many factory workers probably coming through getting married. I could be very, very wrong, but he was
mm,
like, what's your occupation? I said engineer, because he'd worked in an engineering company.
yeah, yeah,
And my
yeah.
dad just looked at me, and I knew my dad was, I hope he doesn't watch this. I'm never going to tell him about this. I could have cried because I could tell how grateful he was, because he was fucking embarrassed. I don't know why he had to be embarrassed, because he's
Mm,
worked his arse off at this company for like 40 years, doing night shifts and schlepping
yeah,
out on his
yeah, yeah,
bike in the rain and all that shit. But he was embarrassed. I could tell he was embarrassed. So I just said engineer. And the guy didn't question it, just let him sign it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he should have put factory work, apparently. Or
Oh, we should
manual
have
labour or factory worker.
manual labor.
Factory worker. Yeah. So my dad is like, I could tell he's not really.
Is he quite proud, man?
Yeah.
Is that, yeah, yeah,
And it wouldn't say like thanks, but he'd just do that sort of bloke thing, if you know, like
yeah. Just the
that sort of,
general nod,
yeah,
like
that tight
yeah,
nod
yeah,
that,
yeah. Yeah, it's like
yeah,
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 yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, no, it's like yeah, it is fascinating. Like when people go through the motions and class and um yeah, how you become socially mobile and like that story you just talked about with your dad there, and um I suppose it's kind of just trying to save face and like
The other guy wouldn't have cared, to be
yeah,
fair. My father-in-law is from he wouldn't have cared. He wouldn't have
yeah.
cared, but my dad would have cared, and he would have cared
But
what the
yeah,
registrar thought. And I think,
well that's the thing, is perception, isn't it? It's
yeah,
like I suppose that comes back to class and like, oh, how are people going to perceive me if I say this or do that? And
yeah,
I suppose it's like that show Keeping Up Appearances, isn't it?
yes.
It's like maintaining that. Is there any kind of like last bits of advice,
Oh,
insight, or anything that you wanted to kind of highlight? Or even the work that you currently do, is there anything that you want to talk about that?
the only bit of advice I'd give to anybody, if they're a young person, they're watching this and they're thinking they're middle class, would be, the one thing that middle class people have over working class people when they start out is this sense that they are destined to do
Mm,
something, and that they're
yeah,
equipped to do it, this like self-belief. And I would just say, you do get there eventually, actually. I think what happens if you're working class is you assume that the better is better, and actually you realise that the
mm,
better is wealthier. And when you start working alongside other people, you realise that class is not in any way connected to competence or skill or ability or any of
yeah,
those
yeah,
things. By the time you've done like 5 or whatever years, you're like, I am just as good, like you're just, I am just
yeah,
as good as these other people. What on earth was I worrying about? And when your confidence kicks in, That's got, but if you can get the confidence from day one, so that the first job you go into, like for me, I finished university, and even though I'd been to university, I went for a job working on a till, just because I was like, well, sorry, I've got itchy ear. I was just like, I don't know. You're just like, oh, I should apply for jobs that I can get. You don't want to
Get some
embarrass
money
yourself.
behind you.
Well, you don't want to embarrass yourself. You're like, what's the point of applying anyway? Because these places aren't going to want me. And so, if young people, if you can start off, you can catch up later. Don't get me wrong, but let's face it, if you can start off somewhere great, and then jump and jump and jump and jump, you can go even further. And for a lot of working class kids, I just think, just don't settle and don't tell yourself that there's a ceiling. I think you should just be like, right, analysis, these are my skills and these are my strengths. I'm going to have a look at what I want to do, and I'm going to go for it. And don't get me wrong, a lot of working class people have, like, you see a lot of entrepreneurs and stuff like that, don't you? But that's a gamble, being an entrepreneur, whereas company slightly,
so it's big risk,
slightly safer, I suppose. So that would be my, like, don't, which is a bit trite, and I'm sure everybody says it, but I do think confidence is the differentiator in class. It's just like self-belief, like if you, your teacher, history teacher, my first degree is history. It's just a lot of overconfident people of a certain class blustering through and thinking that they know best, and they're fucking idiots, quite honestly, aren't they?
Well, we've seen previous prime ministers like
that. Yeah.
So
and generals, God, look at the First World War. Let's go in a time machine and try and, like, even things out, rather than having a hierarchical class-based structure there, and see if things go a little bit better. So I would just, if you can start off somewhere great and keep jumping and jumping and jumping, you can just obviously do that bit better. So I would just encourage them to,
don't let the class kind of define you. Move on.
Don't let yourself define you as well, because most of the time, whatever you think someone else is thinking about you, they're probably way too busy, and you just don't factor into their sphere of thought. Like, you're like, oh, they think I'm this, or they think, oh, they don't think anything about you. They're too busy.
Just focus on yourself.
Just don't worry about what anyone else is thinking. You'll be fine. Tough it out.
That's good advice, actually, and I think hopefully people watching or listening to this will kind of.
What would yours be then?
What my bit of advice?
Because you've done the jump, haven't you? So you've gone proper working class, Midlands, and no offence, I say this, but Midlands accent is a hard one. People can be really snobby about a Mids accent, and you've worked in advertising, and now you're working at a university.
Yes, no, I've kind of just jumped around a bit. My advice, oh God, I've not been asked this yet. It's like it's quite fascinating. It's like I've given talks to some students about what I'm doing in the class and stuff, and my advice is be aware of it. I would say be aware that there is like this hidden, invisible kind of class. But like you said, don't let it define you. Don't let it put you down. But just be aware of it. So when you are having those interactions with people, you can understand it a bit more. Because a lot of the times, especially when I worked in advertising, you would get groups of people who are there purely because of nepotism and their family connections. And I never came across any of that prior to that, because I'd worked in retail. Mainly retail, really. And working in advertising, this was like, oh shit, this is my first real kind of professional environment job. And you start noticing this stuff. And and this is what I've told some of our students, like, recognize a lot of these things in place much earlier on, so then you don't feel as uncomfortable. And even like some of the students now at the universities, like, network more, get familiar with the different types of people you surround yourself with then. So when you are in the world of work, it's not so alien. And don't let it get the better of you. But no one's really actually asked me, what would I do? But yes, the advice I've given people is, like, just be aware of it. yeah, be aware of it, but don't like let it scare you off from doing the work, because these are, at the end of the day, they are just people. And they'll probably have a different life that's gone a slightly different path to yours. And the purpose of this is actually to be able to talk about it more openly and have people have these discussions. So I think then later on down the line, things become a lot more easier to navigate that. And like I've said, it feels like class is so multi-layered and nuanced. Maybe we start looking at it slightly differently about the capital, your social, your economic, and your cultural capital, because class means completely different things to whoever you're speaking to. So yeah, hopefully that's something that makes
It does
sense.
make sense, yeah. You're better off, if you're
Yeah.
aware of something, it doesn't mean that you're looking out for it, but at least you're not going to be so surprised by it. You're going to be,
Yeah.
no, that's
Yeah,
sound
exactly.
advice, that.
Because you work at Working Options, if any of our viewers or listeners want to kind of reach out, how would they go about that?
You can find us on TikTok at Working Options, where we've got really lovely short form content that millions of young people watch every month, and that goes great guns. If you're an educator, a teacher, secondary school or college, you can check us out on workingoptions.co.uk. And if you're watching this and you think, actually, I'll give 45 minutes of my time and go into a school and just have a bit of a chat about my career journey, come over to the website and sign up as well. It doesn't take a lot and it's really nice, and the programme team are lovely and they do briefing calls with everyone, so it's not like you go in and get ambushed by the kids or anything like that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I can put that in the description as well, so people will be able to see that and get in touch. But no, thank you for coming on and talking about your story, and and talking about your journey, and hopefully you'll get some viewers or potential guests, potential volunteers,
It's like
even
free
that
therapy.
wanna
Thank you,
kinda
James, for
yeah.
walking me through,
No, thank you.
through my childhood, and I'm not even paying you for the 55 minutes of like your life.
Yeah. Hopefully it wasn't too
Traumatic. Now I'm going to go
intense.
away and cry now. Now I've remembered my school
Yeah.
bag from
Yeah.
1997.
No, thank you again. No, it was great.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Initial Step. If you resonate with the stories we share and have a similar background you'd like to talk about, we'd love to hear from you. Get in touch and maybe you'll be featured in an upcoming episode. And don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Be sure to check out our previous episodes for more inspiring stories. Until next time, we'll see you in the next one.